So this is my build for Miss Marvel at power level 175. It is a high heroic focused build with battery effect from the light combo finisher and the ranged attack, as well as a high heroic regeneration build, so you can get the ultimate heroic back really fast. Not infinitely fast, as I've seen certain builds for other characters that incredibly focus on heroic regeneration, but fast enough to still be really OP. This is honestly probably my favorite build amongst all my heroes, just because it really brings out how incredible Miss Marvel can be. So we'll get right into it. You can see my stats on the right, and you can see my stats above my gear as well. So you do want to focus on heroic, but you do want to get a secondary in melee as much as you can, and then obviously get defense wherever you can as well. So we'll hop right into it. So you do want to actually focus on some of these perks. Mainly, sometimes you in my builds, you only really want to focus on one or two perks, and then you just want to make sure you have the other stats to back it up. So the stats on this are actually really good. As you can see, you got the triple stat with the might and valor on it. Now, you could easily substitute this with either resilience instead of precision for a better defense, or you could substitute this for only two stats in might and valor, so they can be even higher. But there's nothing wrong with this as well. The main perk we want to focus on for this are the light combo finishers deal vibranium damage. The heavy combo finishers don't matter as much, but you do want to make sure you focus on the light combo finishers. And as you can see from the name, this is gotten from the elite version of the raid. So this is from the elite version of the raid. Now for the ranged piece, and I will get into as well, you can actually have this build kind of the reverse way that I'm doing it. I'll get more into that in a second. I got the ranged piece from the elite raid as well, so it has valor, might, and resilience on it. So this is actually the more ideal stats to have on it, in my opinion. If you don't want resilience on it, I would settle for double stat and might and valor, but I prefer to also have triple stat with resilience, just because it helps the defense even more, so you don't die as easily. So the main stats, the main perks you want to focus on are actually two of these perks. So you want the ranged attacks deal sonic damage, and you want the 15% increased damage from EMBIGGEN. So I will say now, I'll talk about what I mean when you can do this in reverse. So what I mean is you can actually, I would say this might even be a better version of the build. You can have light combo finishers deal sonic damage, and then you can have ranged attacks deal vibranium. The only thing you would change, and I'll go over this again when we get to the minor artifacts, the only things you would change is you would replace one of the valor ISOs with a minor artifact that you can do, what you can get from the raid, which gives you a chance from melee critical attacks activating a vibranium payload. So if you had this and you had a vibranium payload activating from melee critical attacks, and then you had sonic on the light combo finisher, you would just be almost activating an inherent battery damage all the time, because the payload would be activating non-stop, and then you would be doing battery damage from the sonic effect on the light combo finisher. I didn't get blessed like that, unfortunately, so I do have to make do with what I have, but make no mistake that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this build the way it is. It's just slightly harder, and I just mean very slightly harder, to proc the battery effect damage, but not more so on mobs, not on bosses. Bosses, it's still pretty easy. So again, the two perks you want to focus on are the 15% damage increased from EMBIGGEN, and then sonic attacks deal sonic damage on the ranged, and then you get this from the elite raid as well. So the defensive and the heroic piece are where we deviate from the raid now. So I get both of these pieces from the Red Room event as one of the it has a chance to come from the daily rewards from the Red Room event whenever it comes around. So the main stats that you want to focus on for both of these are valor and proficiency, which is kind of the two stats you want to focus on. You absolutely want to focus on valor, and then the secondary should either be proficiency or melee. That's really kind of your preference. I think with proficiency, you'll actually have a higher heroic stat than a melee stat. Well, I mean, you're going to have a higher heroic than a melee anyway, but you're going to have an even higher heroic at the sacrifice of melee, I believe, if you go with proficiency instead of might. But the main perk you do want to get and you want to focus on for this, as you can see from the second one, increases heroic energy regeneration from polymorph. by 3.4%. So this mixed with this, which is basically the same thing. Like I said, you get it from the Red Room event. So it has Valor. It doesn't have Proficiency or Might on it. I didn't get blessed like that. I don't know if there's even a version of that can drop. I'm assuming there is. I'm not going to assume that there's not. I'm just going to assume that I just didn't get blessed with it. But you can see that increases heroic energy regeneration while polymorph is active by 3.5%, and also increases ultimate heroic regeneration by 18%. So these two are very good. You want to get them in at least Valor. And as you can see, it increases the heroic energy regeneration overall, and then this one is going to increase your heroic regeneration, ultimate heroic regeneration by 18% as well. The way this build is set up, it literally makes it so the ultimate, when you use EMBIGGEN, you essentially get EMBIGGEN back again, like barely like 5 seconds after it ends. So what you have to do is you have to use EMBIGGEN, get EMBIGGEN out the way, and then leave your polymorph intrinsic bar full, and as soon as EMBIGGEN is done, use all of your polymorph intrinsic energy, which is going to increase your heroic energy recharge rate, and you should get EMBIGGEN back within the 5 seconds or 5 to 10 seconds. It should not even get close to 10 seconds, but you should get it back incredibly fast. It makes it very good. So these two pieces you get from the Red Room event. You have a chance from getting them from the daily mission from the Red Room event whenever that comes back around. So you're just going to have to test your luck on that. I'm assuming there's a chance you might be able to get them from other places, but I just know that is where I got them from. And then for both of the minor ISOs, so I got these two. They're actually the exact same. And you always want to get triple stat no matter what build you're going for, because double stat on the minor ISOs, not on the other pieces of gear, but on the minor ISOs, the triple stats increase. They scale better on the minor artifacts when you upgrade them for some reason. The double stats do not scale as well. So for this, I have triple Valor on both of them because this is a high heroic build, so that's what you want to focus on. And as you can see, these are actually the best version of these that I could get for minor ISOs, because it increases my support heroic regeneration by 7.8%. So that's obviously on both of them. And then it increases my damage from light combo finishers by 13% on both of them. So this is honestly, so I will say I did get these by cheating, quote unquote, if you want to call it that. It wasn't really cheating, kinda. It really just depends on how you view it. But on PlayStation, I don't know if you can do this on PC or Xbox, but on PlayStation, you can, if you know that a certain minor artifact is sold by the faction vendors on a specific day, you can actually disconnect from the internet and you can set your PlayStation to that specific day, and you can go to that faction vendor and you can buy the ISO, and then you can reset it back to present day, check the faction vendors again just to make sure it reset, and then go and you can set it back to that same day and buy the same ISO like multiple times. Obviously it costs stuff, so you need the resources, but you can keep on going back multiple times to buy them. So I believe the date that I had to set for my PlayStation to get this minor artifact is August 26th or 27th, 2044. And I believe it's from the Shield faction vendor. So if you can't do that on Xbox or PC, or you're not willing to do that, that's absolutely fine. I would just say look out for perks like these if you can, but if you can't get the perks, at a bare minimum, you have to get the triple stat Valor ISO, which is not nearly as difficult as getting it with the right perks. So just make sure you get the triple stat Valor ISO. You can get these from the Shield or Inhuman faction vendors. Just keep on checking those daily. And then the major artifact, I always go with the Norn Stone of Lethal Will, because I always prefer to get the extra damage buff that you can activate against a boss or something like that. And then remember, like I said, if you do choose to do light combo finisher with sonic damage and then vibranium on the ranged, I would go with having a vibranium payload from melee critical attacks, as this ISO is doing, which you can get from either the corrupted vibranium event whenever it comes back around, you can get from the normal raid, or you can get from the Elite Raid. You can get it from any of those, but I would do this configuration instead. It would be a little more comfortable with the battery effect if you had light combo finisher sonic damage instead of vibranium damage. So now we'll go over the skill configuration. So not all of these are necessary to fit in with the meta, quote unquote, of this build, if you want to call it that. A lot of these will be personal preference. I'll just show all of them anyway and then tell you which ones are going to be required for the most damage output for this build. So Healing Spirit can be activated while downed, bypassing the need to be revived by a teammate. This is just going to be your personal preference. I prefer to do this because it bypasses, like exactly what it says, it bypasses the need to be revived by anybody else. So, and especially with the heroic energy recharge rate and the additional charge of Healing Spirit that I have right here, it's going to make it so if you're playing online with someone especially and you don't have to worry about a certain amount of downs, you can just keep on bringing yourself back over and over again. You never have to worry about it. For the Assault, increases damage against a single focused target by 25%. This is better when trying to deal damage against a boss, so I would do this against a boss. Against mobs, I would do Down Low, which can pin multiple enemies with a single activation. That's more or less still your preference, though, whichever one you want to keep on. And then based on High Five specialization, defeating enemies with High Five have a chance to create heroic orbs. I always usually go with heroic orbs for everything because I prefer to get them back as fast as possible. And then with the whole ultimate heroic, so extends the duration of the EMBIGGEN ability by 5 seconds, and then critical attacks do 35% more damage while EMBIGGEN is active. This I feel like is your personal preference, but I would absolutely rather have EMBIGGEN for 5 more seconds. But this I would say is an absolute must. Having your critical attacks deal 35% more damage is a big damage boost. So I would absolutely do that. I will say really quickly as well before we move on to the rest of the specializations, the footage that I'm going to show at the end of this video against the Super Adaptoid and Maestro, I actually did not even have all my skills set in place. So with all of these skills set as they are now, you should actually do a lot more damage, because this one right here, EMBIGGEN does critical attacks do 35% more damage. I did not even have that specialization equipped when I fought the Super Adaptoid and Maestro, and I was able to solo the Super Adaptoid even before it. So if you have the same exact build with the same stats and you have all these skills equipped now, you should be able to do even more damage. So increases the amount of heroic energy gained by 1% from dealing damage with light and heavy attacks. I would say this is an absolute must because we are focusing on heroic regeneration as well. Increases the damage of all combo finishers by 25%. This is an absolute must because the battery effect is mainly coming from the light combo finishers while EMBIGGEN, so that's an absolute must. And then takedowns can drop a heroic orb. I would say that's a personal preference. I just prefer to get heroics back faster. Increases the power and weight of Whip Fist. That's your personal preference. Reduces the cost of holding on to an enemy by 40%. That's your personal preference. 25% chance to generate a heroic orb after slamming or throwing a grabbed enemy. That's your personal preference. Increases heroic energy regeneration by 15% while using Polymorph. That is an absolute must. That is an absolute must. Increases the damage of all melee attacks by 12.5% while using Polymorph. I would say that's more your preference, but obviously more damage is better usually most of the time, so I would do that. And then this one increases maximum amount of Polymorph intrinsic meter by 20%. I would say it's your personal preference, but I would prefer this over anything else because we're getting a lot of heroic energy regeneration from Polymorph. So if you have more Polymorph to pull from, you can be in Polymorph longer, and therefore you can get more heroic energy regeneration. So I would do that as well. Reduces the intrinsic cost for Polymorph attacks by 25%. I would do this as well. This is the same logic. You're able to stay in Polymorph longer. Intrinsic energy recharges faster the lower the current amount of willpower, up to a 30% bonus. I feel like that's your personal preference. And then Shining Will increases the recovery rate of willpower the lower it gets, up to 15%. So I would say that's your personal preference. And then for champion skills, even though for some reason I don't abide by this sometimes, clearly as you can see, I would always do this one, and then this one. So that's the order I would do it in. I would do this column and then this column, at least get them to 4, because these 2 columns increase your defense. And then I would do this column and get it to at least 4 because this boosts your critical damage. And then after that, I would do any other column you want. But yeah, I would do this one, and then this one. But again, that's champion skills are really your personal preference. I just prefer to at least get a more boost in defense first, and then increase your critical damage for even more damage. But that wraps up all the specializations and the video for Kamala at 175. Comment down below how you might build your Miss Marvel. If you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content, and I will end this video with footage of this build in action. I appreciate you for watching the video.
Bad guys. This is it. Someone your own side.
Okay, yikes. Looks like this new killbot is a big Avengers fan. The shield, the hammer. Gonna guess you've got some rockets hiding back there?
Kate, AIM has control of the bridge. We can't open it again unless we get it back.
Please just hang on.
How about a rain check?